For as long as I can remember, my father was never there. My mother always told me that he left us, but she never told me why. All I knew was that we were alone and life was hard. My mother worked from morning till night to make ends meet, but we never had enough money. My clothes were old, my shoes were always torn, and worst of all, I felt completely alone. At school, my friends always talked about their English classes. They went to language institutes and learned from professional teachers, but I never had that chance. Learning English was a dream for me. I don't know why, but I always felt that if I could learn English, I could escape from my situation, see a new world, and change my life. But I had no money for English classes, so I decided to teach myself. I borrowed old books from the library, watched English movies, listened to English songs, and every day I stood in front of the mirror and practiced speaking English alone. But my friends made fun of me. Every time I tried to say something in English, they laughed and mocked me. They said it was impossible to learn a language without a teacher or a class. Some even called me crazy. At night in our small room under the dim light of the lamp, I reviewed my books. When no one was around, I whispered new words to myself. But some nights when the sound of my friends' laughter echoed in my mind, I couldn't hold back my tears. I cried. I told myself that maybe they were right. Maybe I would never succeed. But I learned one thing. True failure is giving up. So I kept going. Years passed, and I learned how to teach myself English without anyone's help. One day, I no longer needed to practice in front of the mirror because now I could speak fluently. My old friends, when they saw me speaking English, were shocked. They didn't laugh anymore. They knew I had succeeded. The journey did not stop there. As my English improved, new opportunities began to emerge. I started reading English books, understanding movies without subtitles, and even communicating with people from other countries online. It was a whole new world opening before me. Despite all the challenges, I knew I had broken through the barriers. One day, I applied for a scholarship to an international program. The interview was in English, and I passed it confidently. The same boy who had once been laughed at was now being accepted into a program abroad. When I told my mother, she cried. This time, not from sadness, but from pride. Arriving in a foreign country was both exciting and terrifying. Everything was different. The streets, the people, the language spoken so quickly. But I was determined. I made friends from different countries, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. My English, once mocked by others, now became my strength. I could express myself clearly, and my confidence grew each day. During my studies, I worked part-time as an English tutor, helping others who struggled just as I once had. Teaching English reminded me of my own journey, and I encouraged my students never to give up, no matter how hard it seemed. Years passed, and I graduated with honors. I was offered a job at an international company where English was the primary language. I remember walking into my first meeting, sitting at the table with professionals from all over the world, and realizing that the boy who had once whispered English words alone in his small room had made it. One evening, I returned to my home country to visit my mother. Sitting across from her at the old wooden table, I told her everything. She smiled, her eyes filled with tears of joy. "You did it, my son," she said, her voice trembling with pride. You never gave up. I visited my old neighborhood, the streets where I had once walked as a lonely boy dreaming of a better future. Some of my old friends were still there. When they saw me, they no longer laughed. Instead, they listened to my story with admiration. Some even asked for advice on how to learn English. Looking back, I realized that every tear, every moment of doubt, and every laugh at my expense had been part of my journey. My struggles had shaped me, and my perseverance had led me to a life I had once only dreamed of. As time passed, I became more involved in the world of language and education. I began giving motivational speeches about overcoming adversity and achieving dreams. People who once doubted me now invited me to share my experience with young students who face similar struggles. I stood in front of large audiences and told them about the nights I spent alone, whispering English words in the dark, hoping for a better tomorrow. I wrote a book about my journey, detailing every struggle, every tear, and every victory. The book was published internationally, and soon letters began pouring in from readers around the world. Some told me that my story inspired them to start learning English. Others said it helped them push through tough times and never give up on their dreams. One day, I was invited back to my old school to give a speech. As I stood on the stage looking at the young students sitting before me, I saw myself in them. I saw the same fear, the same doubt, but also the same spark of hope that had once burned inside me. I told them that life would test them, that people would laugh at them, and that sometimes they would feel like giving up. But I also told them that persistence was the key to success. As I spoke, I noticed a boy in the crowd sitting at the back of the hall. He looked just like I had once looked, quiet, shy, and full of dreams. After my speech, he approached me. With hesitation in his voice, he said, "Sir, I want to learn English, but I don't have money for classes. Can you tell me how you did it?" I smiled, recognizing my past self in his eyes. I sat with him and shared the same advice that had carried me through my darkest days. Start with what you have, I told him. Read books from the library, watch movies, listen to songs, and practice every day. People may laugh at you, but never stop. One day you'll prove them wrong. As I walked away that day, I knew my journey had come full circle. The lonely boy who had once dreamed of a better life had now become a mentor, guiding others toward their own dreams. And I realized that success wasn't just about achieving something for yourself. It was about lifting others up and helping them believe in themselves. So to anyone struggling, feeling alone, or doubted by others, remember, if I could do it, so can you. Nothing is truly impossible if you never give up. The road may be tough, people may doubt you, but as long as you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. And that is the lesson I will carry with me forever.